Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ground Game Podcast. This is your co-host, Clay Hepler.
And this is your other co-host, Justin Piche, and we're here to show you how to win the ground game. Yesterday, my wife pointed out my face is ginormous on this. So if you're watching this video, I have a close-up camera. I tried moving it back this morning, but what's interesting is Wi-Fi, the mesh Wi-Fi systems, older electronics have trouble connecting to the newest Wi-Fi. Like they're fine for whatever the I don't even know what all the numbers mean in front of it, but they were fine for X, 5 Wi-Fi, but Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 7 or whatever they can't connect to. So I now have this really nice camera that I can't connect to my Wi-Fi anymore.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. That's how they get you, man. Everyone's copying Apple's playbook.
I know. Which leads me into our topic of doing your due diligence on the things that you buy. Was that a good segue?
Oh, it's perfect, man. First of all, let's do a little check-in. What's going on with you? What's new?
Oh man. Let's see. It's a little slow time, but we've seen, the last week was pretty promising in terms of sales contracts. We got some cash closes going, which is really nice, obviously. Got some notes selling. Money's coming back in the door, so it's good. It's good. Sometimes you get into like a period of time in your business where you don't have a clear line of sight of when revenue is coming in. Like statistically and experientially, you know that you have a ton of quality inventory and that you have a lot of great properties that are going to sell. Like, those things. But when the sales contracts, we have this huge list of sales contracts generally, when they start getting smaller, when that list gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and there's no new one signed for a period, you're like, uh-oh. But things come around, I got to remember that. Things come around. So that's good. I'm negotiating a really interesting deal right now. I don't know if anybody's done this. And if you have done this, I'd love to talk to you about how you ended up structuring it. But essentially, it's owner financing. The seller is like quite adamant that he wants to receive payments over 8 years. I obviously want to sell the property. It's a kind of a rural subdivide. I think there's enough potential to make it worth doing, but he wants an 8-year note, and he does not want it paid off early. So I'm putting in substitution of collateral clause into the note. So basically, I would buy it owner financing from him for like $300 something thousand, 10% down or 20% down. I don't even care what we put down. He's trying to limit the amount of income he makes each year. So 10% maybe what he wants. And then do a substitution of collateral so that when I sell a child parcel, I have to bring a note, like a mortgage that I own, or another piece of real property that I own that with a BPO or something that shows that it's of higher value, maybe an O&E or something like that, so that I can get, we can make sure there's no liens on it. I don't know, something to protect him, but then substitute that property as collateral so that I just keep making the same payments basically over time, and he doesn't have to make too much money on that property in each year, which is good for him, right? It accomplishes his goal, because otherwise he has zero cost basis in this land. It was a gift to him. And so if he sells it in this year, he's going to have to pay taxes on $300 and something thousand. And the thing that's worse for him is it's going to show so much income right as he comes into Medicare that his premiums for Medicare are going to be so high for like a long period in the future. And that's really what he's trying to avoid. So this is kind of just a creative way to try to protect him, but also get like something good for me, right? Because it's essentially like a line of credit that you have to pay down over time that you can just swap pieces of collateral with, and if you're an honest person like I am, you're going to swap it with good collateral so that he's always protected. There's tons of assets we own that have no loans against them whatsoever, right? We just buy them cash and that's what they are. And so it's going to be annoying, I think, if you swap collateral for one
For
thing and then you
8
sell that
years,
piece of
dude.
collateral.
For eight. what's the exit on this thing?
I think it's a buy at 320, sell at like 650 to 7. Like
Are you paying
a good
interest on
deal.
it?
Yeah, I'll offer interest. Yeah, we try to be fair.
What's fair? 5%?
Well, Prime's at 7.25, so 6.5. I don't know. Trying to refinance my house right now, so I'm looking at rates. I'm like, rates right now for mortgage brokers. Some of them are pay a point, 5.8. Um, I found one bank that's 5.6 ish, no points, but I don't know. We'll see if they do it. So those are mortgage rates. I mean, how much would you pay for a line of credit that you can move around on different assets and interest? Let's say a private lender or a bank was offering it to you.
As little as possible?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But
So, you
what
know,
do you think you would get?
it depends on the person who's selling it, but like, I mean, it would be low. It would be low.
Yeah. I mean, to me, at this point, 6.5 sounds pretty dang low. But
Yeah, that does sound low.
so that's what I'm gonna offer. And I also offered a 15-year option. I mean, it would be kind of annoying. My goal is honestly to like find a piece of an asset that I don't plan on selling anytime soon. Like a really quality note that I'm just gonna hold in my portfolio and let it mature or something like that. And then as I sell child parcels, essentially assign that collateral to it. That way I don't have to keep swapping collateral over and over again, getting him to sign a million documents. But I want the flexibility of doing that, right? Because I don't know what asset I'm going to just tie it to that I plan on holding for a long time.
Right. Well, it's still a good deal, but uh, obviously it makes more uh, from a return on your money. It would be better to have the least amount down possible.
Yeah, I'm only putting 10% down,
Okay.
or at least that's my offer to him. He may want more, which I'm okay with. I mean, I would, yeah, this deal is still good. I mean, my underwriter, I put 35% down in the underwriter and
Okay.
8% interest, and it's still 100 plus percent return on cash.
Even over
So,
8 years.
well, that's just 100% return on cash on the property. That doesn't, I think there's honestly a net benefit to the business to having this 8-year loan because, with the ability to swap collateral. Because instead of when I sell, let's say it's 113 acres, right? It's a pretty low dollar area, low dollar per acre area, rural, but subdivides around a solid like caliche type county road going through it, power, pasture, water, trees. Like it's a nice property, kind of in northeast Texas. And when I sell a child parcel, let's say I sell a child parcel for $60,000. I buy it for, or no, that's probably too low. Let's say I sell it for $80,000. So I bought it for $32,000, if you will. I sell it for $80,000. I don't have to pay any of that to him to release the parcel. My business gets to take that $80,000. I have to replace that collateral in the loan with something else that I own in inventory, but I always have tons of inventory. So I just pick another property that maybe I think is slow to sell, get a broker price opinion on it, come down to 80% or 90% or whatever of the value of that broker price opinion, assign that collateral to the loan so that he's still whole and just make my regular payments. And then I have that $80,000 and now to do whatever to work in the business, take his profit, reinvest, whatever. And then I get to take that $80,000 and roll it into another deal that then could produce, a 70, 80, 100% return. And I do that until I'm slowly paying down this note. So it's really just like a kind of relatively low interest rate line of credit that instead of that you do have to pay principal down on. That's kind of what it's like. I don't know.
Right.
It's interesting. I've been thinking about it. Seems complex, but could work. We'll see how it goes. So you asked me how I was. I'm thinking about that deal. I just planted grass on the lot next door. So my kids were running around like crazy yesterday on this new sod that I have for the lot next door. So that's been exciting. Otherwise, that's it. What's going on with you?
Um, well, I've been doing like, Hess is growing up, man. It's just every week, it's just amazing, right? Like, it's just so much fun. It's just so much fun to be a dad. And he's about 18 months. And so he's starting to see dad and run up to me and give me a big hug. It's just
Oh, dude.
gives it just gives you so much joy. It's just how it is, right?
It's the
And
best.
so that's been pretty incredible. Um, as it relates to our business, yeah, man, we're closing about 40 deals in the next 4 weeks on the sell side, which is just a crazy amount of volume
That
of
is
deals.
literally insane.
My
On the
team,
sales side.
my on the buy side, on the buy
Oh,
side,
on the buy side, on the buy side.
but on the sell side, it might be, I don't know, 10. Dude, it's like, it's obviously good because it lines up a lot of opportunity, right? But it's really, I feel bad kind of for my team, right? Because like that's crazy amount of deals to close in 4 to 6 weeks, and there can be a lot of balls dropped, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is a perfect segue into our topic today, right? Which is about due diligence, right? Making sure whether you have one deal in inventory or you're buying one deal, right, or you're buying 40 in the next month, that you check all the right boxes. I've heard from people that they don't perk test lots. That blows my mind.
Yeah. I mean, well, let's be clear. There's a couple places. There's places geographically that in soil composition that you don't really need to perk. So there are places in the states where like perk test passing isn't like a confusing thing. But a lot of places I work, you definitely need a perk. And I have been burned by not perking lots. I know firsthand, and I'm sure you do too. Like firsthand.
Yeah, so I agree, and so I'm even like some guys submitted a funding deal to me, and he what it was like a kind of a subdivide type
Wait, is this the one in that we both got that you brought to me as well? That we both got pictures. This is a different one.
different one.
Okay, because we had this happen to we had this happen on a deal uh, in Tennessee.
Well, you perked it
But
and then it died.
yeah, waterfront. Remember waterfront, a couple waterfront lots,
Yeah.
pasture. There's a couple perk sites that have passed in the past, had tested good for good soil in the past, and perked like the new selected lot layout or the proposed lot layout, and none of them perked. Nothing perked. So
Yeah, so yeah, I think that there's two core stages of due diligence. There's before you like your preliminary stage one due diligence, and then there's stage two due diligence. So I think we can go into the nuances. Like stage one is primarily for your flips. I give you a couple of examples of deals just this week that we went through stage one due diligence and we killed, right? Um, and then stage two due diligence is more extensive development type due diligence, I would say, right? Like deeper, deeper, deeper.
what's the goal of proper due diligence? Let's just like start. Like, what are we trying to accomplish with proper due diligence? I think it's obvious, but maybe not to some people. Like, how do you think about it? Because, yeah,
Yeah, to make sure that this investment that we have in this land is going to yield a positive return and uncover anything that could prevent that from happening.
yeah, yeah. I think when I think about it, I think, how do my goal is to kill this deal as quickly and as cheaply as possible. That's how I think about how I conduct due diligence.
I like that. I like that. Um,
It's
so
almost like my goal is to kill. Like I almost approach it as like from the perspective of like my goal is to kill this deal with how thorough this search is of the things I'm working to uncover. Not to like be too conservative and like underrepresent numbers so drastically that it obviously kills the deal. Like I'm not trying to do that type of stuff, but kill the deal based on features of the land, what can I do with it, etc.
ex- exactly, great, great, great thought there. So, I mean, I think on a very base level, the preliminary due diligence for me is like, the deal comes in. I'd love to hear your process too, but deal comes in, we get under contract. Preliminarily, we're checking for utilities, wetlands, FEMA floodplain, slope. Like, does this parcel seem like it is a buildable parcel? Now, sometimes it does not. Like from a map, it seems like it's a buildable parcel, right? And the seller might even disclose things that indicate that it is a buildable parcel. Um, and I'll give you an example about that in about a second. But we get this thing under contract, and then our transaction coordinator goes to work. Right? They call the county. to figure out if there's any restrictions on title, restrictions to build, right? If you're buying a parcel of land and your exit strategy is to a mobile home, someone that's putting a mobile home on there and you can't put a mobile home on there, your value is going to be affected. In addition, we purchased a lot this week that is a commercial lot in an area that's like all residential. It's quite rural. It's a 1 acre lot, and it would be a killer rural, um, you know, 1 acre lot, buy for 10, sell for 60, right? It's a really, really solid deal. But we have to rezone it, right? And so we figured that out. You could put a nightclub there, you could put a tavern, you could put
Yeah, but nobody wants to put that. Yeah, it's so
exactly.
confusing.
The down zoning is a lot easier than up zoning. So we figure out what can we actually do here? What's the zoning? What are the restrictions? Then we do any sort of environmental due diligence required. Most of the time, we're getting a perk test. Sometimes we're verifying, are there utilities here, whether it's water, sewer, electric, gas. Will do. It's not as important as these others I found. Um, and we're going to go through that very basic filter, like what are restrictions, and that's going to get us to where we need to be. I'll give you an example. So a seller that we're purchasing a property, we have to kill it, but we're purchasing this property in Minnesota, right? And actually, thanks to the land portal, this was actually really great. Like they have a slope report feature.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And so they had this slope report feature, and we called the county to say, hey, this person got a conditional use permit and it has a mound system on this lot. This is our acquisition manager telling me this, right? And acquisition managers have a tendency to say, hey, this is the best parcel in the world, because they want to get their check, which I completely respect, right? That's what they should be. They should be pushing to get the deal done. But we found out that even though they had a conditional use permit, right, literally the proof of a conditional use permit, literally a proof, they said that seller said there's a mound system on here. He did not disclose the fact of the slope. Now, we looked at the land ID and it didn't look very sloped. It looked like kind of sloped. Like you're like, but I could put a house on there, right? And I looked at actually the street view and it wasn't crazy. It was sloped, but it wasn't crazy. And then I did the land portal slope report, and we found that 75% or greater of the parcel was 23% grade. That's basically not buildable. Now, there was an area that was under the buildability of the the buildability threshold for the amount of slope. It was like 16% or 15%, which is pretty. It's very much
still pretty steep.
Yeah, exactly.
It's buildable, but
yeah, right.
For those of us down here in Texas, that's not
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Whoa, that's a mountain, man. It's a mountain.
Exactly.
Hey guys, this is Justin interrupting your podcast just to say thank you for listening. We appreciate you guys. Clay and I are talking about due diligence, doing a little reminder, some phase 1, some phase 2. It's vital. It's important. I think you'll get some value from it. If you are, please leave a comment, rate, review, subscribe, set up automatic downloads. That's one of the key ways we know that you guys are enjoying this. So back to your regularly scheduled programming.
So long story short, my CO called the county, and man, we found out like very quickly that this was a non-buildable parcel, even though there was a conditional use permit, even though the guy installed a mound system. It was unbuildable. And sellers will oftentimes not disclose that. We're going to be in a legal battle with a guy that didn't disclose that this parcel was non-buildable. It's in a zoning district that was had the right zoning for a single family home, but there was a nuance in the subdivision regulations of the specific subdivision that made it a recreational parcel.
Interesting, man. Yeah, I mean, I find there's a lot of things that sellers don't disclose. This is why you have to be so good at due diligence. Like there's so many things, and like it could be a number of reasons. Okay, like I tend to be somebody who assumes positive intent in most cases, although that's probably not true for a lot of people trying to like sell you their garbage piece of land. But I try to assume positive intent. So it's possible that they just don't know. Like they didn't really figure it out. they bought this or they inherited it or somebody gifted it to them or whatever, and they're just trying, they don't know much about the property. But a lot of times that's not true. A lot of times they know exactly why they haven't been able to sell it, and you're the next sucker who, put in an offer and thinks they could do something with it.
And they're holding their breath the entire time.
Oh yeah.
So, in your team, Justin, who is getting the due diligence together? Who's calling? Who does the restrictions? Is there anything that I miss that you think is helpful?
No, those are really good. We do. I mean, a lot of that due diligence stuff, is like almost pre purchase or pre offer or pre under contract for us. Not all of it, because I don't like wasting time before getting an actual solid offer. But a lot of that is kind of our clean initial due diligence, and then some of the stuff that you're talking about though is we dig deeper. We try to figure out the full utility picture, like actually call the utility companies and determine, well, what size line can we get a tap? How much does it cost to extend power, 500 feet into a property? Like things like that, we'll figure out. Uh, Land use, of course. Yeah, we're looking into that. We typically order a due diligence report right off the bat from Parcel Review. And it's like, I've done this since I started the business, and they've gotten more expensive over time, but I usually buy a package of like 20 or 25, whatever, due diligence reports. And it's kind of nice. It's a lot of work to like put a spreadsheet together of all the good information about this, said parcel. They call the utility companies and verify. They'll pull the deed record for you if it's in a state where you can pull the deed. They'll take some screenshots on like land ID, whatever. And it's not the best thing ever, but it's nice because we use a lot of that information in our sales listings, like GPS coordinates of it, like the corners of the property, utility companies, what utilities are available, any CC&Rs that they can find, the zoning code that they can find, things like that we use in our listings. And so I pay $25 or $20 for somebody else to do all this rather than my team do it. And then we still do further due diligence. It's not like that's the end all be all. Like I don't fully trust that. I mean, it's good information to have in one spot, but I wouldn't like outsource my due diligence to buy $100,000 parcel. We want to do that ourselves. But yeah, I think everything you said is what we are looking at. Yeah, it's not common you run into that type of issue where there's a parcel that was platted in a subdivision zoned recreational, but we actually ran into that once. Something really similar. Not exactly that, but something really, really similar. I bought this property in Alabama, Shelby County, Alabama. It was 12.8 acres, and then 3 lots about a half acre that were sold in a foreclosure sale a decade ago or whatever. Some woman bought them, and then we bought them from this woman. And the 12.8 acres was solid. I thought I could do a subdivide. Turns out I couldn't because of the road. I needed to build a full cul-de-sac and all that. So that's another thing about due diligence that we can get into. That's actually a great due diligence story, but I'll just keep going on the issue that was really similar to yours. 2 of the tracks were home sites that were good. I sold those. The 12.8 was fine. I sold that. And then there's another half acre that was designated on the plat common area. It's like a normal lot. It looks like a normal lot. It has frontage like a normal lot, but it's a common area, and the subdivision regulations just don't let you build on it.
Yep, that's
So I own the common area of this subdivision, and nobody else in the subdivision wants it, and I still own it, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this thing. Like I tried to sell it for like $4,000. It's like a half acre. I tried to sell it to the people around that bordered it. Nobody wanted it. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Maybe I can donate it or something.
that's exactly what this is, but I paid 23 grand for it.
Ooh, oh, you already bought it.
I bought
Oh,
it.
you bought it.
The
Oh
seller
yeah,
did not
yeah, yeah.
disclose it. No, frankly, we could have done better due diligence, right? But
Yeah.
the seller did not disclose this fact, and we checked the zoning regulations. And the neighbors, like, I talked to the neighbor, and he is a nasty son of a gun. He's like, I'm like, would you sign a petition so that some family could get a home here? He's like, absolutely not. I don't want anyone in my backyard.
Oh yeah. That's pretty. No, not in my backyard. That's so common of like an attitude, unfortunately.
It's the boomers. It's the boomers. So,
Well, we're not here to disparage boomers. Just let's just be clear. But there are certain people that don't want people near them. I guess.
that's very true. That's very true, right? But I it's a lesson, right? It's a core lesson. I mean, slope has gotten me multiple times. I still own some lots in. Bad agents, man, I think is one thing that we missed. Like bad agents is I'm considering finally changing my agent for a track that I've had on the market for like 550 days.
Oh
It's a
man, that
big
sucks.
track, but like he's so unresponsive. I just yeah,
Where's it at? Maybe
Lawrence
that's why.
County, South Carolina.
Lawrence County. I don't think I have anybody good there.
If anyone does, DM me on Instagram.
Yeah, DM him. Let him know. Um, so level one due diligence, I think, is probably a pretty like widely adopted standard. I think there's levels that you can go a little bit deeper even with that. Like for flip due diligence, I doubt everybody goes to like the county land use and or zoning regulations or whatever for properties. One thing I think you have to do though, you have to do this. People who are listening, if there's a subdivision or a platted subdivision, you have to read through the covenants and restrictions. And sometimes it's really hard to find. Sometimes there's a plat recorded. So if your legal description, the way I look at this is if first of all, we ask the seller, and then some of the software we use will tell us whether or not it's in an HOA or something like that. But even if it's not in an HOA, there could be CC&Rs, covenants and restrictions that you need to look at. If the deed legal description references a plat book and page number, you have to look at that plat. Okay, because on that plat, it will have a bunch of other things, and it might reference a specific CC&Rs that were recorded differently. And sometimes the only way to find that is to look in the county deed records or call the county and ask for the name of the company that created the plat or recorded the CC&Rs, and then find those. It's like multiple levels of digging to be able to find it. So I had this has bit me a couple times. And frankly, it's kind of hard to find this stuff. So like, if it's bitten you too, no shame. Like I'm not like ashamed that this bit me by any stretch, but it is a lesson learned. You learn over time. I bought these 2 lots in a platted subdivision. I looked at the plat. The plat had no mention of CC&Rs on it. It did say somewhere, it said like, subject to any future recorded restrictions or whatever. But there was no reference to a book or deed page. There was no reference on my legal description to any other restrictions or covenants. There was no reference on the plat to any restrictions or covenants. So like I actually did my due diligence. I dove in, I found the plat. I'm like looking everywhere. I'm like, there's gotta be some, right? No, nothing. I couldn't find anything. So I buy these lots, I hire a surveyor. They have great road frontage. They're 2 4.5-ish acre tracks. I look at the subdivision. There's some 2 acres. There's some 2.5 acres. There's some 3 acres. There's some 4 acres. Mine are both one's 4, one's 5, and they've got great frontage. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna split these in 2 each, and I have 4 lots in this subdivision. Fantastic. So I hire my surveyor, send him out. He goes and surveys, pay him like $4,000 or whatever it is to do all this work, and then I list them for sale. And then I started getting calls from the neighbor, like one of the neighbors or like the president of the HOA or something like that. It's just like, hey, like you can't do what you're trying to do. You're trying to subdivide these lots. You can't subdivide lots. And I'm like, are you sure? Like I saw the plat. I read through my deed. I don't see any restrictions preventing me from subdividing. And she's like, yeah, there's covenants and restrictions recorded in the county. Here's the thing you have to, here's what you have to look for. Actually, it wasn't a neighbor called me. It was the neighbor who talked to my surveyor. And my surveyor called me and was explaining that this is what the neighbor said. So then I started diving in. It took me like 30 minutes to try to like type 1,000 search terms to actually find these true covenants for this neighborhood. And sure enough, I read through it and it says that no further subdivision of these lots can occur. And so I mean, I didn't end up losing money. I wasted money. Like I threw away money because I didn't need to pay the surveyor for anything. There was already a plat. Like we had clear legal descriptions. There was no purpose in really surveying anything. I ended up selling both lots. I made a little bit of money, maybe like a 50% return versus what I thought was going to be like 120% return. But that stuff adds up, You spend $4,000 extra on this deal. You spend $5,000 extra on that. You spend 10 on this. You lose, this 1,000 in earnest money, blah, 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 blah. And like, a year later, you've got $100,000 in losses that could have been prevented from proper due diligence.
Yeah. I mean, due diligence is actually like key. I mean, it's crazy how important it is. And the more I've been in the business, the longer we take because there are so many things that can go wrong and few things go right. And so
It does feel that way, doesn't it?
yeah. Your role as a business owner, right? Whether or not you're leveraging a funder, whether you're doing it yourself, whether you're getting into a business and your parents are going to fund your first deal, right? Or your friends, like they deserve the utmost amount of due diligence. And sometimes it's on the front end, it's like paranoia, right? Like, am I actually doing this right? That's actually good, right? Because like if you're raising money from another person, you want to be a steward of their cash,
100%.
and so
You
yeah,
owe it to them. I mean, you owe it to be a fiduciary to them.
yep, yep. So yeah, man, I think that's the phase one of due diligence. It seems simple here, and it is kind of simple, right? But when you're in the hustle and bustle of your day to day, sometimes you just skip it. You're like, all right, let's just buy it, right?
When you're like Clay Hepler and you have 40 properties that you're going to close here in the next 4 to 6 weeks, or you have under contract to close the next 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, I mean, I could see why something would be missed.
Yeah. Well, I'm also yeah. So so that's it, man. So that's it. Phase one of due diligence. A lot of times our transaction coordinator does that, right? Um, and then phase two, I think, is like even more a deep dive, like going into
Yeah,
development
phase two
phase.
costs you money. Phase two costs you a lot of money sometimes, there's no way around it, frankly. So if phase one is generally the stuff you can do without, maybe a perk test is kind of the extent of phase two in terms of what's going to cost you money, or survey, perk test or survey. Those things will cost you money and those can be part of phase one due diligence. Phase two is a lot more involved because you are probably processing some kind of rezoning or subdivision or something on this land. And so you have to figure out, can you do your plan? Is your plan viable? Will it get approved by the county? Can you create buildable lots for the end buyer or whatever it is that you're creating? And here's maybe I'm can if you will, can I list some of the things that I'm looking at for phase two, and then you can kind of talk. And there's going to be more that I'm missing, I'm sure. But when I think through it, wetland study delineation, right? A lot of times you have these flood maps and these wetland maps that are on the programs we use, Land ID, Land Portal, Land Insights, whatever. You can see those things, but that doesn't necessarily get you enough information. A true wetland study will map out and delineate all the wetlands on a property. So that's one thing. Water availability study. This is a huge one. This is the thing that I found that has killed the most major subdivisions for me is water availability study.
Specifically in Texas.
Yeah, specifically in Texas. So quick example, working on a deal right now with some partners, and we submitted for the water availability study. And there's a couple of things with the water availability study, right? There's obviously, does the provider have the capacity to serve the number of houses or structures that you plan on putting here? That's one thing. The second is there enough fire flow for the fire marshal and for the fire department? Those are like the two kind of big things. The fire one generally is like the more restrictive one. The more wildfires there have been, the more counties, municipalities that have adopted stricter fire codes, the higher the fire flow standards might have to be. And so you generally, for some of these bigger developments, like we had to pay $6,500 just to do this water study, just for the water company to tell us if they could serve the development that we want to build there. So obviously, before we get that, we have to get our unit count right. Because if we submit this package for, call it 70 units, and then our engineer is able to find another 10 home sites, and then we have 80, well, that's more. And so we would have to resubmit. They would have to redo the engineering calcs again. So you have to put the money into the site plan to figuring out the road layout and design before you even submit to the water company. So that's like 15, 20K. So we're already like 20 whatever K into this deal. And then we And before we go submit to the water, right, we want to make sure if the construction costs are feasible. So we've got to get some at least engineering, layout, design, detention estimate, water lines, power, whatever estimate that we can bring to our GC to quote us before we spend another like $7,000. So it's like this logical progression of all the things you have to do and spend money on to kill the deal as cheaply as possible. So we submit for the water availability report. No communication for 60 days from when we pay. They just won't talk to us. They're like, we said we'd have it in 60 days. You can talk to us in 60 days. So they go through the whole process. They get us back the report. And the assumptions on the report are different than what we requested. Like we requested a certain amount of fire flow. They made it 4 times, I guess technically 8 times what we needed it to be. And their conclusions were that we can't build our development. We can't build our development. We have to wait for all these capital improvement plans that they have. And they listed like 10 different capital improvement plans, like capacity improvement, pipeline improvement, whatever, quantity, improvement, and that they are going to build, that they're building. They have a plan for it, but there's no determined timeline for when those things are going to be built. And then they said we had to install a half a mile of 18-inch pipe along the road in order to service our subdivision. And I was like, what is going on here? This is crazy. And I look at the fire flow requirements, and they're requiring us to provide, or the assumption they made was fire flow 1,000 gallons per minute for 2 hours of fire flow, which is I think part of this new fire flow standard. But we'd already had a conversation with the fire marshal, and the fire marshal had given us a much lower number for fire flow. He said, hey, 500 gallons per minute for 1 hour, or even 250 we can work with. Instead, we're running the engineering calcs on 1,000 gallons per minute for 2 hours. So now, we have to go back and get them to rerun the report, which I have a feeling they're going to ask for another $6,500 just to run the report with the right assumptions. We're going to say, no, you ran these wrong. Here's like the record of us requesting a specific, fire flow. So anyway, but that kills so many deals because obviously like our project purchase price, 2 point something million, infrastructure, like we have about a $2.5 to $3 million like available budget to do all the capital improvements before we can't do this deal anymore, before it becomes not an attractive deal. But a half a mile, 18-inch offsite pipeline.
That is
Holy
absolutely
smokes!
that's huge. That's huge.
Kill the deal. So that's what kills deals. Like it's like the water company says, "Hey, we can provide it to you if you spend $10 million on all these offsite improvements." Like, well, I can't do that. So
Yeah, right.
I guess the deal's dead. Here's my money. Thank you, sir. Anyway,
yeah. So I mean, we went through wetland delineation, but really, what you're talking
yeah.
about is utilities.
Yeah,
You're talking
specifically water, because power is not generally as big of a deal, although it can be a big deal. It can be a big deal. Like if you only have one phase going through and like you're building a big enough development where you have to build a lift station or you have a ton of houses, you may have to install 3-phase and you may have to bring it back a ways to get 3-phase or do some sort of like offsite upgrade. So yeah, I mean, utilities can be a thing too.
But yeah, I mean, we're actually doing a deal in Texas right now in Roby, Texas, which is in Fisher County. You know Fisher County, Texas?
I don't. No, I don't.
It's close to Midland, Odessa. It's about
Okay. I actually have never worked on the west side of the state. I've only done like basically like central to east.
okay.
Texas.
So it's about 45 acres, and we were doing due diligence on it because obviously water is critical out there, right? And basically, we found a guy that will lay 2-inch line for water, and we talked with the city, and the city's totally okay with it. For us extending, and they'll actually put the sub meters in or the true meters in, because sometimes in these weird counties they'll have you put the meter in for a main meter, and then you have to put in sub meters, and then you have to be in charge of the sub meters.
Yeah.
So in this county, and so then you have to build it people individually, like you would if you owned an
Like you
apartment
set up
building,
your own
an
little
apartment
mini
building,
utility company,
right?
essentially. Interesting.
So, yeah. Long story short, it's pretty interesting. But we're closing on it actually today. And it's a buy for like 115, sell for like 250. So it's really good, solid deal. But yeah, I think that's the um, high level for utilities for me. Anything else, Justin? By the way, dude, let's wrap this up here relatively shortly so we can get to the next one as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Uh, yeah, I mean, we haven't even kind of scratched the surface on the county requirements and county zoning type stuff, county subdivision regulations, county meetings, etc. Um, so maybe it'd be good to do like a specific development focused due diligence process podcast in the future. But yeah, there's a whole lot of other things for phase two due diligence. But I think the ones that most commonly kill your deal for sure are going to be kind of wetland soils, um, just land use subdivision regulations. Make sure
yep,
you can build a conforming thing. Like you got to be able to review those and meet with the county, and then utilities. Those are the kind of the biggest ones. There's other ones too to look out for as well. And I'll just give like a little teaser: roads, highway department, road department, access. I mean, you might look like you have a lot of road frontage on something, but can you actually build driveways there? What's the requirement? And I could talk ad nauseum about this. I've run into so many issues, but in the interest of landing the plane, and giving people a nice, perfect length podcast, we're gonna end here, Clay.
yeah, absolutely. Super valuable, and roads are definitely a big consideration. We've had plenty of deals blow up because of like NDOT and different
Yeah,
types of road regulations that didn't allow us to build the type of commercial development that we were looking for in the Outer Banks of all places. And yeah, so I mean, guys, you know this at the end of the podcast. Like, if you like this due diligence podcast, like sometimes going back to the fundamentals is critical, and a reminder is more important than new information. And so, if you really got benefit from this podcast, let us know. Hit the rate, review, subscribe button down below. Let us know what you like. Give us some feedback. It allows us to grow. And Justin and I keep coming here, dedicating our time every single week. It's 7 a.m. right now. Justin and I are doing
6:55.
6:55 in Texas, baby. We started here at 6 in Texas. And we're here to really add value to you guys. We enjoy this time, but giving that feedback to us really helps show us that, hey, you guys are doing a really good job. Keep it up. So please share, rate, review, and subscribe. And until next week, Justin, anything else?
We'll see you guys next week.
Perfect.